getting national attention for the way that she's spending taxpayer dollars.
The investigates has learned South suburban politician Tiffany Henyard has lost another key ally. Until recently, has information that indicates the FBI has launched an investigation into controversial Dalton.
In an astonishing turn of events worthy of a political thriller, FBI agents raided the home of Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed super mayor of Dalton, Illinois, unearthing millions of dollars hidden away like a treasure trove. What began as a promising story of a small-town leader with big ambitions has now spiraled into an epic scandal surrounding the misuse of public funds, exposing an extravagant lifestyle that rivals Hollywood's elite. Henyard, once known for her bold proclamations and the self-appointed title she wore like a crown, now faces intense public scrutiny and a federal investigation that threatens to unravel everything. The raid didn't just uncover an absurd amount of hidden cash. It also revealed a tale of unchecked opulence, allegedly funded by the very taxpayers she swore to serve. Lavish vacations, designer shopping sprees, a $500,000 driveway for her mother, and other eye-popping expenditures have placed Henyard squarely in the crosshairs of authorities. Her spending habits, which have been compared to those of reality TV celebrities like the Kardashians, seem particularly offensive given the financial struggles of Dalton, a town now sinking under a staggering $3.5 million debt. Henyard's rise to power was swift and dramatic. After the sudden death of former Mayor Frank Selly, Henyard assumed the role of mayor, drawing initial skepticism, which she silenced with grand plans and promises of revitalization. She quickly positioned herself as a beacon of hope for Dalton's future. But those promises soon unraveled, giving way to mounting controversies under her administration. Transparency became elusive, critics were silenced with alarming speed, and Henyard reportedly consolidated power, turning Dalton into a personal empire while residents struggled under poor governance. By 2021, Henyard secured her position as mayor and went even further by also taking on the role of supervisor for Thornton Township, combining two powerful offices that boosted her annual earnings to a jaw-dropping $200,000. But with that power came unchecked abuse. Critics described her administration as a political spectacle fueled by excess and control, with Henyard allegedly using municipal resources as her personal piggy bank. Reports revealed expenditures on extravagant trips to Vegas, excessive security measures, and questionable donations to her so-called charity that lacked proper accountability. Henyard's critics were relentless in flagging her questionable financial practices, and social media became a platform for residents to voice their outrage over the misappropriation of taxpayer funds. With Dalton's financial woes growing ever worse, roads left unrepaired, services deteriorating, and residents losing hope, Henyard's self-serving behaviors became more glaring. The breaking point came when the FBI got involved, revealing evidence that Henyard's misconduct went beyond negligence and into the realm of personal enrichment. Millions of dollars were uncovered, hidden away, leaving Dalton's residents devastated and further disillusioned. As these revelations surfaced, Henyard's response was defiance. She claimed that the accusations were politically motivated attacks designed to tarnish her reputation. On social media, she attempted to rally her supporters, posting cryptic messages calling for solidarity. But those efforts fell flat as public demand for her resignation intensified. Whether her defense will hold up under the weight of the damning evidence or whether the federal investigation will continue to unravel her administration remains to be seen. Rumors swirl that some of Henyard's former allies are cooperating with investigators in a desperate bid to protect themselves, and each passing day seems to bring new revelations about the depths of mismanagement. Henyard's tenure began with grand promises of revitalization, such as initiatives to provide housing for veterans and seniors, as well as new developments aimed at lifting Dalton out of its financial troubles. However, those high hopes quickly turned into disillusionment as investigators dug into her extravagant spending habits. Central to the controversy is the Henyard Care Foundation, a breast cancer charity presented as a noble cause. However, it was soon exposed as little more than a front for Henyard's personal financial gain, with taxpayer dollars funneled into supporting her luxurious lifestyle instead of funding charitable efforts. One of the first red flags of Henyard's administration was her excessive travel spending. burning through a staggering $67,000 in just 5 months, an amount that far exceeded the annual income of many Dalton residents. While the town struggled with debt, Henyard appeared to live like a celebrity on a reality TV show, indulging in costly vacations and lavish accommodations, all funded by the public purse. One infamous example was a business trip to Springfield that turned into a personal getaway, complete with premium hotel stays, upscale dining, and an entourage that included her own DJ and a drone photographer. All of this was paid for by Dalton and Thornton Township taxpayers. Adding insult to injury, Henyard allegedly profited from publicly funded expenditures in bizarre ways, such as selling branded merchandise, t-shirts and hoodies, ordered with taxpayer money from Thornton Township. When questioned about these transactions, she refused to provide explanations, further fueling suspicions of gross mismanagement and self-interest. Her blatant disregard for transparency only deepened the mistrust of Dalton's residents, who began to question how much of their hard-earned money was being funneled into her personal projects. Perhaps one of the most egregious displays of Henyard's self-promotion was her decision to use taxpayer money to plaster her own face on large billboards around Dalton, not for a campaign, but to glorify herself as a leader. This move was widely criticized as not only an ethical lapse, but also an insult to a community struggling with financial instability. While Dalton faced limited resources, Henyard's lavish spending on self-promotion only added to the outrage. As Henyard's lavish lifestyle continued, it starkly contrasted with Dalton's worsening financial crisis. The town's residents, once hopeful for positive change, were left disillusioned and angry. Henyard's blatant use of public funds for personal gain, from exorbitant business trips to questionable security arrangements, only deepened the town's financial struggles. Among the most glaring examples of mismanagement was her $1 million security detail, which included 24/7 protection and absurdly inflated overtime payments. One security team member allegedly earned $113,000 for just 33 hours of work in 2 weeks, an arrangement that raised questions about time inflation and corruption. When the police chief refused to comply with Henyard's demands regarding the excessive security measures, Henyard swiftly dismissed him, further alienating local law enforcement. Her apparent need to consolidate power at the expense of community welfare became more and more apparent, with her removal of anyone who challenged her authority. The mounting revelations of Henyard's financial mismanagement, self-promotion, and abuse of power have cast a long, dark shadow over her administration. What began as a hopeful story of local leadership has devolved into a textbook case of political scandal. With the federal investigation continuing to expose the extent of her wrongdoing, Dalton's residents are left to wonder how much more will be uncovered, and whether Henyard will ever face true accountability for her actions. Tiffany Henyard's time as the mayor of Dalton, Illinois, has become a chaotic saga of alleged corruption, fraud, and financial misconduct, sparking widespread outrage among residents. Once seen as a promising leader for a struggling town, Henyard's tenure quickly devolved into a series of scandals that have left Dalton in disarray. As the FBI investigates her actions, the small town faces a growing deficit, unresolved debts, and an erosion of public trust that may take years to rebuild. Henyard's rise to power was swift and dramatic. After the sudden death of Mayor Frank Selly, she assumed leadership and promised to revitalize Dalton, a town struggling financially. Her claims to be the super mayor of Dalton, a title she wore proudly, captivated residents who hoped for positive change. However, as Henyard's time in office progressed, it became clear that her promises were little more than empty words. What seemed like an opportunity for growth and revitalization quickly turned into a story of financial mismanagement, extravagant personal indulgence, and questionable governance. Under Henyard's leadership, Dalton was plunged deeper into financial turmoil. The town's budget deteriorated, debts mounted, and essential services went unpaid while Henyard lived a life of luxury. Public money that should have been spent on improving the town was instead used to fund lavish vacations, expensive designer shopping sprees, and high-end accommodations. The stark contrast between Henyard's lifestyle and the struggles of Dalton's residents was impossible to ignore, and it fueled growing frustration among taxpayers who felt betrayed by their elected leader. The situation grew even more troubling when reports emerged suggesting that Henyard had used her position to reward herself and punish those who questioned her authority. Employees who spoke out or refused to comply with her demands were reportedly subjected to retaliation. One notable case involved Boeing Frash, a longtime employee of Thornton Township, who claims he was fired after refusing to cooperate with Henyard's alleged schemes. He was reportedly offered a $100,000 pay raise to help her replace a township attorney with someone favored by her assistant. When Frash declined, he was dismissed in what many considered a retaliatory move. Henyard's administration was marked by a pervasive culture of intimidation, with former employees filing lawsuits alleging wrongful termination, harassment, and retaliation. Carmen Carlisle, a former trustee and outspoken critic of Henyard, accused the mayor of using police resources to intimidate those who dared to challenge her. In one instance, Carlisle claims that police officers were sent to her home in an effort to silence her dissent. These allegations raised concerns not just about Henyard's leadership, but about her abuse of power and disregard for ethical governance. Adding to the controversy were reports of sexual harassment within Henyard's administration. Former Assistant P. Dukes filed a lawsuit accusing Henyard of sexual harassment during a taxpayer-funded trip. Dukes claims that after reporting the harassment, she faced swift retaliation, including being placed on unpaid medical leave. These lawsuits, combined with rising public anger, painted a damning picture of an administration consumed by self-interest and corruption. Despite the growing number of allegations, Henyard continued to insist that the claims against her were politically motivated attacks. She attempted to portray herself as the victim, deflecting responsibility and accusing her critics of personal vendettas. Some of her supporters defended her, calling her actions bold leadership in challenging circumstances. However, these defenses were ineffective in quelling the public outcry, as more and more residents began to question her ability to lead. Henyard's refusal to accept responsibility for her actions only added to the perception that she was out of touch with the reality of Dalton's financial crisis. While the town grappled with escalating debt and rising costs for essential services, Henyard's administration seemed more focused on self-promotion than addressing the community's needs. She reportedly spent thousands of dollars on trips, security, and luxury purchases, all funded by taxpayer money. One particularly egregious example was her lavish business trip to Springfield, which turned into a personal vacation funded by the town. This extravagant spending was not limited to travel. Henyard also reportedly used taxpayer money to erect billboards featuring her own face, a move that many saw as a blatant act of self-promotion. This act of vanity, which served to glorify herself rather than benefit the community, further fueled resentment among residents who felt their hard-earned tax dollars were being squandered. The financial mismanagement under Henyard's leadership reached a critical point when it was revealed that the town of Dalton was facing a staggering $2 million deficit. Essential services such as street paving and tree trimming went unpaid, and there were no annual audits conducted since 2021, leaving the town's finances in disarray. Without proper oversight, Henyard's administration had no checks and balances, allowing public funds to be misused with little accountability. The situation worsened when it was discovered that Henyard's police department budget had skyrocketed. Reports indicated that the police department's expenses increased by 21% under Henyard's watch, and she spent more than $1 million on a 24/7 security team. This excessive spending on personal protection contrasted sharply with the town's deteriorating finances, and residents were furious at what they saw as a reckless misuse of funds. The chaos surrounding Henyard's administration caught the attention of state officials, prompting a deeper investigation into the town's finances. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was brought in to investigate the situation, and her findings were damning. The investigation revealed that Henyard's actions had caused significant harm to Dalton, and the town's financial problems were a direct result of her reckless spending and lack of accountability. Meanwhile, the FBI became involved, launching a thorough investigation into Henyard's actions. Agents reportedly searched her home, uncovering hidden cash and evidence of financial misdeeds. The discovery of large sums of money stashed away at her residence raised serious questions about Henyard's financial dealings. It was also revealed that she may have used her controversial charity, the Henyard Care Foundation, as a front for her personal financial gain. The foundation, which was initially presented as a noble cause to support breast cancer research, allegedly funneled taxpayer money into Henyard's lavish lifestyle, including expensive shopping sprees and vacations. With the FBI investigation underway, Henyard now faces potential charges of wire fraud, embezzlement, and other criminal offenses. The possibility of criminal prosecution looms large as the evidence against her continues to mount. For Dalton residents, the question is not just whether Henyard will face legal consequences, but whether the town will ever recover from the damage caused by her leadership. The growing scandal has left many residents wondering how Dalton ended up in this situation. Some have called for a complete overhaul of the town's leadership, with a focus on restoring transparency and accountability. The fallout from Henyard's tenure has also raised broader questions about the need for stronger financial oversight and ethical governance in local government. As the investigation continues and more details emerge, it is clear that Henyard's time as mayor of Dalton will be remembered as a cautionary tale. What began as a promising political career has descended into a nightmare of financial mismanagement, corruption, and betrayal of public trust. With the FBI digging deeper into her actions, the full extent of Henyard's alleged crimes may soon come to light, and Dalton residents are left to pick up the pieces of a town once full of hope, but now left in financial ruin. The future of Dalton remains uncertain as it grapples with its staggering $65 million deficit and an uncertain path forward. With the town's funds frozen and its finances in disarray, residents are desperate for change and accountability. Tiffany Henyard's actions have stirred a complex and deeply concerning narrative in the small town of Dalton. Once hailed as a leader with great potential, Henyard's tenure is now marked by allegations of misconduct and a betrayal of public trust that have left the community in turmoil. Initially, her attempts to deflect blame and suggest that she was misinformed about Dalton's financial issues seemed to be her only means of defense. However, as more evidence has emerged, her story has begun to unravel, casting doubt on her integrity and decision-making during her time in office. At the heart of the controversy is Henyard's apparent misuse of her political power for personal gain. As the investigation into her actions unfolds, the mounting evidence suggests that Henyard may have deliberately manipulated the town's resources for her benefit, despite being entrusted with the responsibility to serve the public. This mismanagement and possible corruption have not only damaged the town's financial stability, but have also jeopardized the community's trust in their local government. The evidence against Henyard paints a troubling picture. Her repeated claims of being misled or unaware of the town's financial woes have proven increasingly difficult to justify in light of new documents and testimonies. As the investigation progresses, it is becoming clearer that Henyard's decisions may have been driven by self-interest, rather than a genuine desire to improve Dalton's well-being. The public's trust in her has eroded, and the town is left grappling with the consequences of her leadership. What makes Henyard's actions even more concerning is the broader issue of unchecked power. In a position where transparency and accountability should have been paramount, Henyard seemingly exploited her position for personal advantage, leaving Dalton vulnerable to significant financial instability. Her case serves as a cautionary tale for other municipalities, illustrating the dangerous consequences of leaders who operate without sufficient oversight or regard for ethical governance. Henyard's tenure has been marred by a series of questionable decisions that have only added to the growing skepticism surrounding her leadership. The people of Dalton had placed their trust in her, believing she would work toward improving the community's prosperity and well-being. Instead, they now face a reality in which their town's future is uncertain, and the very systems designed to protect their interests have been manipulated for personal gain. As the investigation intensifies, it is clear that Henyard's actions are part of a larger pattern of systemic issues that have plagued Dalton's governance. The failure to prevent these actions from taking place speaks to a broader problem of accountability within the local government. For too long, leaders like Henyard were allowed to operate without proper oversight, and the result is a community reeling from the fallout. The impact of Henyard's actions on Dalton's finances cannot be overstated. The town's budget has been severely strained, with funds misallocated or outright stolen. Public services have been compromised, and the town's infrastructure, once a source of pride, is now in disrepair. The financial mess left behind will require years to untangle, and the people of Dalton will likely face years of economic hardship as the town tries to recover. In addition to the financial toll, Henyard's actions have had a deeply damaging effect on the social fabric of Dalton. Trust between citizens and their government has been shattered, leaving many wondering if they can ever truly rely on their elected officials again. The emotional and psychological impact on the community is significant, as many residents feel betrayed by a leader they once respected. Henyard's actions have not only harmed the town's finances, but also its sense of unity and shared purpose. The road to recovery for Dalton will be long and difficult. Rebuilding trust in local government will require a concerted effort from both the public and the remaining leaders within the town. Transparency will be essential, as will the need for clear, actionable steps to restore ethical governance. The town must work to establish checks and balances that will prevent such a situation from arising again in the future. This may mean revisiting how local officials are elected, how financial decisions are made, and how information is shared with the public. Ultimately, the outcome of the investigation into Henyard's actions will play a pivotal role in shaping Dalton's future. If the town is able to hold her accountable and address the underlying issues of corruption and mismanagement, there may still be a chance for recovery. However, if Henyard's actions are allowed to go unchecked, the town risks further decline, with the lessons of the past being ignored in favor of convenience or political expediency. Henyard's story is a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the necessity of transparency and ethical leadership in governance. Local leaders must remember that their primary responsibility is to the people they serve, and that misuse of power for personal gain ultimately harms everyone. Dalton's residents deserve better than the leadership they received under Henyard, and it is now up to the community to reclaim their future and rebuild what has been lost. In the years to come, the fallout from Henyard's leadership will serve as a reminder of the importance of vigilance, integrity, and accountability in local governance. The mistakes made by Henyard should not be forgotten, but instead serve as a guide to ensure that future leaders are held to the highest standards of ethical conduct. The town's recovery will require patience and dedication, but with a renewed commitment to good governance, Dalton can emerge from this crisis stronger and more united than before. As the investigation continues, the people of Dalton must stay hopeful and engaged. The future of their community depends on the actions taken now to restore accountability, ensure transparency, and prevent future abuses of power. The lessons learned from Henyard's mismanagement will hopefully lead to a brighter, more ethical future for Dalton and its residents.